The Simpsons. What? Oh, I'm up. Welcome to So to Speak. I'm Evan Mead.
I'm Lyle Groniger.
And today, I can't believe we're doing this, but it's our 30th episode, and as a tradition we started at the beginning of the show, every time we hit a big, like 10-0 or 2-0 or now the 3-0, we have to talk about The Simpsons. I'm sure Ned Flanders would be proud of us, and he'd probably take us out for $1 million birthday fries at Uncle Mo's Family Feed Bag.
That was a reference.
Do you not remember Bart Soul to Soul when
it's been a while.
Yeah, sorry for the obscure reference.
Man, we've lost some people along the way. I mean, Cody in the first episode, who was a very staunch believer that the show should have ended after 10 seasons. And then poor Michael, who just couldn't keep up and get through the big final 10 seasons. I guess technically 12 final seasons, but those two aren't on Disney Plus, 31, right. 32.
Okay. But Josh is here with us.
Josh stuck around.
Yeah. Josh Weinberg,
Excuse
welcome
me,
back.
I was told this would be the Triple X retrospective episode.
Cool.
Yeah.
All of 3 movies. I also got you guys some coffee. I'm drinking it for you now.
It's nice.
Water.
Cool.
That's very nice. It's all extravenous.
Yeah.
I mean, he sounded a little tired in that intro there.
Yeah.
We didn't we?
Yeah, no. And
frankly, I don't blame him either.
We're going to talk about, one of the chief cast members sounds more than just tired when she does a voice, but we'll get into that in our retrospective of the season. We're going to talk about episodes that we actually watched from this era of the show. Now, I got to be honest, given my schedule, outside of recording this podcast and in just career and work and all that, I actually have never watched anything. I've seen the first full 20 seasons, admittedly, as a homework assignment so that I could, do podcasts on The Simpsons because I love it so much. But I've actually seen only 2/3 of the show. I am super unfamiliar with anything beyond season 21. But that's not to say that I didn't, come up with anything to talk about for this. I just scrolled through the seasons 21 to 30 on Disney Plus, and I picked episodes with interesting premises that appealed to me either because of how bad they sounded or how interesting they sounded. So I think there are some gems we discovered some gems in this era, but mostly the show has just lost whatever magic it had. The magic stuck around. I'm going to be a little more generous and say that the magic of The Simpsons stuck around until at least partway through season 15. Then after season 15, the magic started to dwindle, and then so on and so forth. And now here we are talking about everything past season 20.
I would say the magic for me kind of died off as soon as the Simpsons movie came.
Well, the Simpsons, the critics would say that the Simpsons movie could have revived the show because they brought back all the old writers that were writing in the Golden Age to write the movie. Well, admittedly, that was because they had plans for a movie since 2000, but not to digress. So, considering how we have so little to say about most of the episodes we want to talk about today, we're going to just burn through these and just talk about,
Who wants to go first?
Wait, so little time.
Yeah.
So much to do, but I'd rather spend my days with you.
Aw.
And if that day is not enough, maybe we can stay in touch. Damn it, this is not a Mary-Kate and Ashley episode. Damn it, brain.
Okay.
Yeah, that isn't a reference.
Oh, nice.
That is a reference.
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
You know what? How about we let our guest of honor go first? Josh,
great, thank you.
And we're gonna start with what's an episode from season 21 that you found appealing or interesting?
Probably one of my favorites of season 21 of the little I remember, because much like you guys, around the start of the 2010s towards the middle point was when I had already fallen off, but that just kind of confirmed it. I am picking Boy Meets Curl.
Oh, Boy Meets Curl. The curling episode.
Yeah, the Canada episode.
Yeah, this one's pretty great. I mean, not only is it Olympic themed, which I kind of have a bit of a soft spot for, it's a really nice Homer and Marge bonding episode. And the fact that it did kind of, in a way, eventually lead to mixed doubles curling actually being a real Olympic event. Plus, you got Bob Costas.
Oh, cool.
So how can you not go wrong with that?
And there was also a subplot with the Vancouver the Vancouver Olympic
Lisa
Games.
getting addicted to pin collecting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's clear that they made that episode to celebrate the Vancouver 2010 Olympic Winter Games.
And as Canadians, therefore, we must feel some sort of way towards said occasion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the Simpsons had covered like all kinds of sports in their time, and it's only logical that they would eventually get to curling. So. Good on them.
And of the episodes where the Simpsons have been to Canada, the Bard Once Would Have Once in season 13, this one Doe Canada that I don't know if anybody picked, but
I'm going to talk about
great.
that later. I'm going to talk about that later. Don't you worry.
Much later.
But of the ones that've been to Canada, I think this one is probably my favorite, just because for how solid it is, and
nice.
it's pretty enjoyable.
Because they spend most of the episode in Canada too.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. So I guess I'll go next if that's okay with you, Lo.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. The episode that from season 21 that fascinated me just because of how bad it is, and is an episode called "The Devil Wears Nada." The plot of this, I picked this episode because the title fascinated me because it's like, okay, Devil Wears Nada. I get the reference, but here's the thing. It's called The Devil Wears Nada because the main plot is supposed to be Marge makes a provocative, calendar photo session. Something very similar to what Lois Griffin did in there's an episode in the early years of Family Guy where Lois became a model and Peter and her father had to team up to stop her. But apparently Marge Simpson went down the same path, but the episode actually focuses on Marge being a provocative model for about 5 minutes, and it's 22 minutes long. The real plot of this episode is the fact that Homer gets promoted at work after Carl gets promoted at work, and Carl is that best friend that becomes a douchebag supervisor, and he makes Homer his assistant. The real plot of the episode is their libido essentially dies, and this plot thread with Homer and Marge's libido dying actually gets recycled a few times in the 20s seasons of the show. Is that what they're calling them now?
Yeah, the 20s.
Yeah, the not so roaring 20s.
More like the snoring 20s.
The snoring 20s, yeah, that's a good one.
Anyways, so
that's what this decade is shaping up to be, alas.
Oh Lord, yeah. Tell me about it. So I just wanted to talk about that because I was fascinated because the episode kind of, snagged me in and hooked me with its title and its premise. Oh, Marge becomes a provocative, calendar lady. I kind of want to see where that goes. And then it barely focuses on that. And this is another example of how not only is the writing not funny, the narrative is also horribly unfocused from time to time of some episodes.
Carl's just an absolute dick in this episode.
Oh, he is.
Which ties into my pick for one of the later seasons in terms of a Carl focus.
Yeah. To be fair, there aren't too many
What's
episodes.
funny about this one, though, is the fact that the reaction in France is kind of hilarious, since parts of this episode have basically become memes over there.
Oh, yeah? Right, because he almost has an affair with the First Lady of France. That's so funny.
Yeah, and for once, people watch things on Daily Motion.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's all I have to say about this. Let's just burn through this.
Okay, so my pick for season 21 is called Chief of Hearts. So the episode is about, after serving community service, Homer becomes best friends with Chief Wiggum. This episode is not genius, it's not pure brilliance, and it's basically very similar to another episode called This Little Wiggy, which was a few seasons back. But honestly, the thing I like is that it's just a fun dynamic between Homer and Clancy. I mean, it's basically two morons being best friends.
Aww.
It's like Dumb and Dumber, but for Simpsons.
Yeah.
And what's even better is when they have a falling out, and it's even more funny because Clancy is so immature.
Does it go into 22 Jump Street territory where they're like a couple that breaks up and is going through communication struggles?
Honest to God, it kind of is.
Oh God!
There's one moment where Clancy just breaks into Moe's, and he's like, "Hey Homer, I found this on you," and it's a pin that says "You are a bad friend."
Oh.
And Homer's like, "You pinned that on me, man! You pinned that on me!" Clancy's like, I don't care. He takes out a gun, starts shooting through the roof, and cries out of the building. And of course, Lou and Eddie are just like along for the ride the whole time.
Yeah.
But it is treated almost like a relationship, like a high school crush kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't care about the B plot where Marge thinks Bart's on drugs, but he's actually addicted to Bakugan.
Who thought it was a good idea to think, hey, let's parody Bakugan?
Bakugan, remember that shit?
In 2010, for God's sake.
Yeah. Well, get used to that. The Simpsons always being behind on the trends. That's enough of that.
Yeah,
moving on.
That's going to be a real obvious thing in a few years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on to season 22.
Wow, we burned through that quickly.
Just keep going.
Yeah. There's not much to say. I want to keep it that way.
Josh, what's your pick for season 22?
Mine's The Great Simpsina. I think of the late era episodes, this is actually quite enjoyable.
Oh, yeah?
Basically, Lisa becomes a magician, or at least she becomes the assistant to the great Raimondo.
Oh.
Who himself was like, Martin Landau.
Martin Landau, that's right.
Oh, the late Martin Landau.
Yeah, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. But it's just a lot of fun because she starts learning the tricks, and then it ends up with this great magic duel with, like, Ricky Jay, Penn and Teller, David freaking Copperfield.
Oh, wow.
And a Chris Angel parody, too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because in 2011, Mind Freak was still a thing.
Yeah. No, that is a fun episode. I do remember that one.
I remember Chris Angel. Yeah.
Oh, and it starts off, I forgot, with this, like, hilarious Pete song that's sung by this character voiced by Jack McBrayer.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, the apples bit. Yeah, I love how Homer just
Something
complains.
like that.
It's like, we have to do all this work and then pay them. Oh.
Yeah.
I remember. I forgot about that. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Actually.
Cool. Sounds like an interesting episode. I'll have to check that out.
Okay.
Anything else you want to say, or?
I think for this episode it's just really solid.
Oh,
okay,
good. Moving on. Even though I think this episode is actually a hidden masterpiece in, like, the forgotten era of the show.
Oh, holy shit.
It's a sequel to one of my favorite episodes from the whole show itself. Angry Dad the movie picks up somewhere after I Am Furious Yellow left off. Basically, to refresh your memory with I Am Furious Yellow, Bart starts an internet cartoon called Angry Dad, which is basically Homer getting mad. But then the company goes under, so there's no need for Bart to prank Homer into making him angry to make cartoons anymore. But then this random businessman comes to this Simpsons doorstep and says, yeah, I loved your cartoon and I want to fund it into an animated motion picture. But then it's a classic filmmaker's tale gone awry. They make a feature film, and apparently it doesn't bode well with test audiences, so they cut it into a short. The short somehow is able to beat out other movies in this in the animated film categories at all the award shows that are masterpieces, and Angry Dad is just this, chuckle fuck comedy that comes along and just stamps all of them away and wins all the awards. And at every single award ceremony, Homer takes all the credit, which is another example of jerk-ass Homer, but then Bart gets back at him when this thing actually wins an Oscar against the Pixar parody. I love how
Which is basically Food Fight.
No, it's basically Sausage Party.
Oh, God, that movie.
Yeah.
Why'd you remind me of that?
Well, and I love the Randy Newman parody where it's like, you got an enemy. And there's something I'm gonna.
The Pixar parody.
Yeah, Mixar. That was just parodies of the film industry altogether. It was really fun to watch, and I love how when Angry Dad the movie wins an Oscar, Bart tricks Homer into not attending the ceremony so that he can have the speech, and then Homer learns his lesson for the moment and says, "Yeah, I'm sorry I hogged all the credit." And yeah. But yeah, no, I just really like this episode because of all the jokes it makes at the expense of the film industry. It kind of reminds me of that episode that Michael talked about in our last show where the Simpsons go to Sundance.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good one. There's a lot of cameos in your episode
Oh, yeah.
too. Halle Berry.
Yeah.
There are some really good ones though.
Nick Park from Aardman.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
I like that one too, and even Russell Brand.
Russell Brand. Yeah, Russell Brand is only
Once
in
again
there.
When he was still a thing.
Yeah, no, Russell Brand was in there for like 2 lines.
And who can forget Ricky Gervais?
Do you know what's?
Come on.
You want to talk about how The Simpsons predicts stuff? There's a sign at the bar where Ricky Gervais is trying to, sweet talk the bartender, and it says the sign at the bar says, "Do not let this man host," and it has a picture of Ricky Gervais. And then Ricky Gervais hosted the Golden Globes in 2020, and then everything went to shit. So
I thought that was before that. I thought it was like in the mid 2010s.
Yeah, no, I think he hosted at one point, and they didn't like him. And then the Hollywood Foreign Press was like, no likey. And then they let him come back in 2020. And look how that turned out. Well, I liked Ricky Gervais when he hosted the Golden Globes. I mean,
he was brutally honest.
Brutally honest, yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes we need that.
Sometimes.
So that's I think this is probably the episode that I have the highest amount of praise for, like, in this era. So moving on, that's all I can really say.
So my pick for season 22 is the blue and the gray. Evan, I was very close to picking yours, but I picked this one instead because the logline is basically Marge realizes that she's basically lost all of her natural hair color over time, and she's just been blissfully unaware as she gets her hair dyed, and she decides to keep it gray, much to Homer's chagrin.
Oh.
So this is a nice Marge episode. There aren't too many Marge episodes in this era, but like this one's pretty nice.
Is it kind of like Large Marge, where
a little, yeah, there's like a physical change to Marge and comedy ensues, and there's quite a few nice little comedic mishaps that happen to her. There's one moment where she goes to the grocery store and everyone's like, "Oh, you want a senior's discount?" Or I love the one where she goes to school to drop off the kids, and Milhouse is like, "Oh man, your mom used to be hot, but now she's just kind of eh." Bart's like, "Shut the hell up, Milhouse," and he beats the ass out of Milhouse and slams his head against a teeter-totter. And then Skinner takes him to the office, and he's like, "Bart, I've heard online that you kicked the crap out of Milhouse. It's like you were totally aggro, and you punched him like 5 million times." I don't know why that's slang.
Is that Skinner's pathetic attempt to get in tune with how the kids are speaking?
Basically. It's another reminder of, am I out of touch?
Yeah.
No, it's the children who are wrong.
Exactly, Josh, exactly. But I think my favorite moment in the episode, just to wrap things up, is that while they're talking about hair, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie all kind of ask, like, "Okay, I have a question about hair. Where does mine start and end? Head, hair. Where's the border? What are we?" And Lisa takes a marker and draws on her head. "I'm just gonna draw a border." Which is it's the kind of joke that I would never think of, but when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, where are their hair?
Well, very quickly, when they were developing the show, they actually wanted to have a little plot twist for Marge where her hair was meant to conceal bunny ears. It wouldn't have worked at all, but...
Well, it was a reference to Matt Groening's earlier
And then Marge was Bongo the Rabbit the whole time.
Yeah, from Life in Hell.
I'm pretty sure they've made that joke at least a few times, like, in the show.
I think I remember one, yeah. Anyways, so... I think
Before we go to season 23, I remember the other fact I was going to say.
Oh, yeah?
The Great Simpsina is the first Simpsons episode to not have any opening sequence.
Oh.
Get used to that this era.
Oh,
like no intro?
They cut out the
intro.
No
couch gag, no intro, nothing. Just straight to the episode from the clouds.
Oh, wow.
It's super lame, yeah.
Wow. There was an episode in season 1 that had The Simpsons, and then it just... No couch
But then
gag.
It started the intro and then cuts right to the outside shot of the house. That's a little different than just... going in the clouds, boom, episode starts.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to season 23, we're just... You know what? I'm going to go last this round just because I have a lot to say about my pick. And and all of us do too.
Okay. What's your pick, Josh?
I've said a lot about this in the last 2 episodes, but again, I think it's the best future episode. up there with the best holiday episodes. It's freaking Holidays of Future Past. What more do you want from me?
You introduced us to this episode. It was very, very good.
Yeah.
It is great. I mean, again, when it's written as a potential series finale, it pulls out all the stops to wrap everything up, give characters closure, and I mean, the one misstep is the whole thing where, like, Milhouse is trapped in Michigan and the whole, like, it's under Sharia law. That I thought was a really tone-deaf joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, oh well.
But aside from that, it's just like it's in the future. Lisa and Milhouse are married, and she's trying to connect with teenage daughter. Bart's divorced, and he's trying to reconnect with his kids. Apparently, Abe's been in cryogenesis for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
But it's quite nice. It's just it wraps everything up, and when Lisa goes into the alternate, that's kind of like a pretty funny take on the internet, circa early 2010s.
Yeah,
and then, of course, Maggie being the world's most famous rock star, who, of course, we can't have her saying anything.
Nope.
Yeah.
And she has a baby.
Yep.
Oh, and the montage. There's a montage of holiday photos over the years from the beginning of the episode. That's actually really cool.
Yeah, you're right. I think my favorite part of the episode is where Lisa and Bart go to the treehouse and they just get wasted on wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently the writers had a lot of fun writing that bit because it was the first time they could actually show them drunk.
Yeah.
So.
Well, didn't Bart drink whiskey in the Simpsons movie?
Yeah, like legally drink.
And
adults, and they have like experiences and like events.
It kind of reminds me of in Lisa's wedding when Bart comes to see Lisa as she's putting on her dress, saying, "Wow, Lisa, seeing you makes me want to get married for a third time. I met this really nice I met this really nice dancer at Hugh's bachelor party. Hugh didn't have a bachelor party. We had one in his honor. I had one in his honor.
I had one in his honor.
I went to a strip club.
I went to a strip club.
Yeah. That's
apparently
cool,
there was going to be a joke about a meltdown occurring at the plant in the future, but after the 2011 earthquake in Japan, they understandably cut that one.
Oh, good call. Good call.
There.
Good call.
But once again, if the series were to end with this episode, it would be a damn fine place to end it. Of course, we all know that is not the case.
No, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So my next pick is called A Totally Fun Thing That Bart Will Never Do Again.
That sounds like a really, really good title.
That you know.
A totally fun thing so far.
Okay.
The log line of this episode is Bart desperately wants to go on a family cruise, but once he has one, he never wants to leave. So this is a really, really good Bart episode. Like, most Bart episodes are just Bart being a dick for no real reason, like he's just impulsive. But in this one, everything starts off very nice. It's like Bart tries really, really hard to save up for a cruise, but he fails. But then the family pitches in, they all go to the cruise together, and the vacation goes off without a hitch. Like, they all enjoy themselves, they have a nice week, but then it kind of dawns on Bart that he's gonna have to go home eventually. Like, later, in less than a week, he's gonna be back to old Springfield doing the same shit, and he's afraid that this cruise will be the only time in his life that he'll ever have fun. Like, he's having such a good time that he's like on his deathbed. He's like, oh, I wasted my life and I never. The cruise
that's
is the
so
best.
dark, that scene.
That's really dark, yeah. And so, in a moment that's all too topical, Bart gets an old disaster movie up on the display of the cruise and convinces everyone that a pandemic has occurred on land, and they can no longer land on land, or else so they're quarantined out in sea.
Wow.
And for the next month,
which, again, almost a year ago at this point, that kind of thing did happen.
Well, in reverse, because there were COVID outbreaks on cruise ships, and those people...
And they had to stay at sea.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Yeah, it felt very, 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 very prophetic, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Simpsons predicts.
Oh my God.
So, it almost turns into a Mad Max situation where, there's very little supplies, everyone's kind of getting sick of the boat, and, no one's having fun anymore except for Bart. And then it's revealed, and then Bart eventually has to reveal the fact that, yes, he did pull this prank. And so the captain and his crew just jettison them in the Arctic. And
good for them!
Good for them. And so then they go the Simpsons like see some penguins and they start playing with the penguins, and Bart's like, "What the hell's the point of any of this? None of it's gonna be as good as the cruise." And then like all fun just ends way too soon. And then they actually and I actually love this bit. Like the whole family basically states that yes, life is fleeting. A lot of it's kind of boring, but you really have to kind of stop and enjoy things once in a while and keep them very solid in your memories so that you can always enjoy them for the rest of your life. And it culminates in a very, very lovely moment at the end where we see a future Bart really reminiscing on all the nice moments he had with his life, not just the cruise.
Yeah.
And I relate to that because I have a problem where like I'll have like a really good day, but when that day ends and I know I got to work the next day, that it all just came by way too quickly. You know, it's a problem, but it's a very it causes me a lot of anxiety. But like I think this episode really touches on the beauty of the passage of time and like enjoying the moment. So it was a very, very good episode.
Something that doesn't get enough credit in the later seasons is the music choices, especially this episode.
Oh yeah.
You have the Hot Chip song "Boy from School" playing during the montage where Bart just skates back from school bored every day and going through the same routine.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And then Winter's Love by Animal Collective when they're all like sliding down the ice floe in Antarctica.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of music in these later episodes for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Evan, what's your choice?
Okay. I wanted to go last because this has a reputation for being one of the most critically disavowed episodes the show has ever predicted.
Oh, no.
I feel like the internet culture kind of unanimously agreed that in May of 2012, The Simpsons hit its peak low point. That was with a little turd called Lisa Goes Gaga.
Oh no!
The plot of this okay. The plot of this episode is Lady Gaga saves the day. I'm dead serious. That's the plot of this episode.
James L. Brooks saw an interview of her on 60 Minutes and wrote the script. The end.
Yeah, no. Okay, here's the deal. The reality, it really shows in this episode because, let me put it this way.
Lisa gets sad and a celebrity cheers her up.
I have no problems with celebrity guest stars on The Simpsons or any other show. It can be done right, as seen with, Simpsons examples like How I Spent My Summer Vacation, or even Stark Raving Dad. I know we're not supposed to talk about that episode anymore, but, I mean, that was Stark Raving Dad and How I Spent My Summer Vacations are the two episodes where I see The Simpsons handled a guest star beautifully, where they're a major component and character in the story, not just some cameo that they throw in. But with Lisa Goes Gaga, Lady Gaga is the main character of the episode. I think she actually gets to a point where she has more dialogue than some members of the Simpson house. Like, she has more dialogue than Homer and Bart combined in this episode.
Yeah.
And the message is a very, cliche, don't be a bully message, which I have no problem with. Like, I'm working on a project right now that is all about, stopping bullying and ending prejudice. But the problem is, the message is so cliche that when Lisa calls out Gaga herself for how cliche it is, I was rooting for Lisa, and I'm not supposed to be doing that. Like, I honestly feel like they should make a masterclass based off of this episode for how to not write an episode or a bit where you have a celebrity guest star, because like Lady Gaga's ego is just everywhere in this episode, and it's not even I thought they were going for something like, oh, they're making fun of how big her ego is, but no, they literally take her ego almost seriously. And the point, and yeah, like what Josh said with how James L. Brooks saw the Anderson Cooper 60-minute interview, it makes a lot of sense. And also, something we have to keep in mind, the plot of the episode, the Lisa's story in the episode is she is voted in a very mean-spirited manner in front of all of Springfield Elementary. She is voted the least popular student in the whole school, and then on the message boards, some mystery blogger starts a message thread saying Lisa is actually pretty cool. And there's a bit of a mystery as to who the secret messenger was. I thought it was Lady
Gaga. If you take 2 seconds, it's not a mystery. Come on.
No, they revealed that mystery way too quickly. I thought Lady Gaga was secretly the messenger, and that would have been kind of nice. But no, Lisa started a thread dedicated to defending herself from bullying. Now, I get it. She was being bullied. She felt down. But, to lie about yourself like that is even beneath her. And by the way, this is based off of something that actually happened to Lady Gaga. Like, when Lady Gaga was in university, I believe, there was some douchebags actually dedicated a thread to how she would never be a celebrity, and, fuck all of them because, the rest is history, right?
Proved them wrong.
Yeah, she proved them all wrong. So, I mean, that's a super mean-spirited thing to do, and they did a little twist on that, but every facet of this episode is based off of something that happened in Lady Gaga's life or career. And like I said, I have no problem with anti-bullying sentiments. I have no problem with guest stars being on the show and being a major part of the episode. Again, How I Spent My Summer Vacation is one of the best examples of how to work in guest stars. But this one, they just let Lady Gaga's episode. This was Lady Gaga's episode. It wasn't a Simpsons episode.
If I could say something, I think another reason why this episode was so heavily derided at its time was that it came out at a time where Lady Gaga was just fucking everywhere.
Oh yeah,
she was on tabloids, she was everywhere on TV.
It was a lot of overexposure at that point too.
Yeah, if I had to compare,
at least in that era of her career.
Yeah, it's sort of like the Simpsons equivalent of Geely, which tried to capitalize on the Bennifer craze and horribly blew up in their face.
I don't agree with that. I don't disagree with that.
Okay. Happy to hear it.
Yeah. Well, okay, so the point is, and surprisingly, is this the worst episode I've ever seen of the show? No, it's not even close to the worst episode. The worst episode I've seen of the show so far is still No Home Again, Naturally, where, go watch our previous episode and you'll know about that. Yeah. But anyways, Lisa Goes Gaga, it was a mistake, and I had the benefit of watching it way past the whole Lady Gaga craze, because I didn't watch it when it was new. I watched it, 9 years later. Mm-hmm. I can see through an uncritical lens why it's a flawed episode. And I'm not even a hater of Lady Gaga. I really like her stuff. I own her first 2 albums. She's great. It's just that I like her music. Her ego's a little iffy for me. Can we just be done with this?
Yes, please.
Well, that's at the time, mind you, because obviously since then, she's played the halftime show. Her most recent record, Chromatica, from last year, it's quite good. Joanne, I think, is actually better than Born This Way.
Oh, yeah?
Okay.
Cool.
But let's be real, nothing touches The Fame.
Yeah, no, The Fame is
great.
The Fame is The Fame and Fame Monster, I think, are
oh, yeah, they're kind of very interconnected, basically, because they are. It's like The Fame Monster is just The Fame 1.5.
Yeah. They came out, 1 year after each other, right?
Fame was 2008, Fame Monster November 2009.
Yep. Cool. So, moving on to season 24. Hey, we're making pretty good time.
Beep. Boop. Beep. Boop. 24?
Has Josh transformed into a robot?
Yeah, I'm what's going on over there?
Please, no.
Okay. Oh, it's a 24 reference. Okay, cool. What episode?
Oh, season 24. Wow, I am dumb.
Season 24. Oh!
We are dumb.
Yeah.
Okay, Josh, what's your pick?
The Saga of Carl.
Yes.
This is one of the only episode to actually give Carl some backstory.
It truly
is. And after Homer and the gang win 200 G's in the lottery, they split it 4 ways, but then Carl takes all the money and runs to Iceland, where not only do Homer, Lenny, and Mo find out about his Icelandic heritage, but apparently there's some big family misunderstanding where he takes the money to try and clear his name. It showcases a lot of the great animation when they actually get to Iceland, and the fact that they have Peter Rose doing the music for this episode is fantastic. It's a really nice touch.
Cool.
Yeah, I gotta say, there aren't too many episodes that are dedicated to Lenny and Carl, so this is actually a nice change in place.
Yeah.
Change in pace, sorry. Plus, Iceland's nice.
It is also a change of place.
Okay.
Okay, so Evan, I guess you're next, or am I next?
No, I changed up the order for that one time. So first, my episode in season 24 is another one of those Ned Flanders snaps, and I love watching it. Black Eyed Please.
Oh yeah.
The A plot of this episode actually doesn't have anything to do with Flanders or Homer. The A plot is Lisa has a substitute who is a total biatch to her, and she's nice to everyone else, but is a total biatch to her.
She's played by Tina Fey, isn't she?
I'll have to. Josh, can you fact check that? Because
it's the one with the substitute teacher who just hates Lisa for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Tina Fey.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So this episode, Flanders, they actually bring back Ned's parents, who had brief appearances in earlier episodes in seasons 1 to 10, but this time. Homer actually gets along with them really well. There's a scene where, and they're huge stoners, and they're chilling in like Flanders' lounge room, and he sees Homer like just chirping the hell out of him. Ned sees Homer and his parents just making fun of him together. Ned loses it and just decks Homer in the eye, and he does it like multiple times in the episode. So, I feel honestly like a bastard for picking the episodes in which Ned Flanders goes nuts. But I don't know what it is. Like, I love seeing Flanders stand up for himself in both the best ways and in the worst ways possible, because Homer is a douche to him. And another episode in my pick for season 26 actually has something to do with that arc between Homer and Ned as well. So
no, it's fun watching Ned snap sometimes.
Yeah, no, it is.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Yeah.
All right. My next pick for season 24 is The Day the Earth Stood Cool. The logline is the Simpsons neighbors are hipsters.
So, did they bring back Roy?
Short a logline. The Simpsons does Portlandia.
Basically.
Yeah.
So yeah. This episode basically just makes fun of hipster culture, like 100%. It's like it's kind of nice to see Fred Armisen in the show. Like, I actually kind of like his character, but like everyone around him, it just sucks. Especially his bratty son, played by Patton Oswalt. Like, it just shows like hipster culture as the most elitist, pretentious, self-aggrandizing thing in the world, and yet everyone in town is soaked up in it.
Yeah.
And to the point where like almost everyone wants to fit in with this niche kind of subculture until it gets played out and they all leave.
Yeah.
I don't have much to say. Season 24 was kind of dry for me. This was the one that stood out to me most.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Okay. We're in season 25 already.
You keep saying it already.
No, we're just flying through this.
Yeah.
Josh, what did you pick for season 25?
Married to the Blob.
Ah, yes, I knew you were gonna pick that one.
This is probably my favorite episode of one of my favorites of the late era, simply because it shows that comic book guy is not just a elitist asshole.
Is this the one where he gets a girlfriend?
He does, and it's like animation where it's kind of like a comic book or like a manga in some way. Kumiko really does bring out the best in him, and aside from another Stanley appearance, it has perhaps the best example of paying nods to animation great, because when Homer and Kumiko's father get dunked on the snake line, and it has that love letter to Studio Ghibli. It's fantastic.
I love that part too.
You have to see this episode for yourself to really get all the references, but that was so wonderful to see.
I believe it. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, no, it's a good milestone.
Yeah, and the fact that like there's that little musical number where you see comic book guy doesn't really want to be like just running his store alone by himself. He wants to actually be sort of how like Homer and Marge are like the first couple in his eyes.
Aw, that's sweet. Yeah.
I mean, especially since Kumiko got a new voice as of recording a couple of episodes ago, I think it's really nice to see that they've managed to give her some development as well later on too.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So Is that all you had to say, or?
I also really like the segment where they're going around to all the things in town, and the song "Pom Pom Pom" by Carrie Pummy Pum. There's somebody that does like shades of J-pop, J-rock, stuff like that. It was really cool to see that again. The music does really they get more international artists in these later years.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
Anyways, so my pick for season 25 was an episode literally titled "Steal This Episode." The log line is the log line off Disney Plus. I believe has like Homer basically commits online piracy, and now the film.
You wouldn't download an episode. Oh no, you would.
Yeah. Now, by the way, the Simpsons have taken jabs at, illegal downloading before. The Simpsons movie even did this with the whole the chalkboard gag. I will not illegally download this movie. And basically what happens is Homer has a relatable but really ugly theater going experience to the point where he gets banned and simultaneously never wants to go back. So he basically resorts to Pirate Bay. And I love how to watch all his movies in the theaters, he resorts to Pirate Bay. But I love how the Simpsons creators actually do a fake out where they say, we're going to tell you how to download stuff. But then Fox basically hijacks the episode and says, instead of giving away this sensitive information, we're going to show you stock footage of a NASCAR race from 2011. And it shows like live action, like NASCAR footage. And it's really funny.
That's a reference.
Yeah. But then the plot of this episode is Homer commits movie piracy to the point where there's a big trial, and then Hollywood becomes so inspired by his underdog story of beating the system that they want the story rights to make a movie about him. And I'm not going to give away how the episode ends from there, but it's real. I actually thought it was kind of funny.
They even do a jab on Judd Apatow movies.
They got him to guest star. They got him, Seth Rogen,
and Leslie Mann,
and Paul Rudd to guest star. That is pretty incredible when, but they're comedians. They know when and how to make fun of themselves.
I'm going to talk about Judd Apatow later. I just thought pointing that out.
Yeah.
To foreshadow.
So,
that part in the episode where they end up at the Swedish consulate is kind of funny just because they have to bring in they bring in Judas Priest in quotes, but you only really hear Rob Halford. But still, getting Judas Priest this late in the show's run is not bad. I just wish they were all credited.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Anywho.
Oh well.
That's all I have to say. A fun episode about a very relevant topic in an industry that I'm a part of. So cool.
Yeah, me too. Okay, my pick for season 25 is Brick Like Me. This is an episode where Homer wakes up and finds himself in a Lego universe and tries to piece together how he got there. But So yeah, this episode is a total departure from the normal style of The Simpsons. It's entirely CGI animated. And while it may seem like a gimmicky premise, the amount of gags they can fit together with all the physical attributes of Lego and building stuff with blocks, it's used pretty appropriately, and they have a lot of fun with it.
At this point, were they capitalizing on the success of the Lego movie?
Yes, they were, and they kind of point that out by
what took this so long to get that?
Yeah.
But beyond that, it is a very good Homer and Lisa episode. Basically, Homer finally has fun playing with Lisa because she starts playing with Legos. And they go so far as
and then she gets into the Hunger Games parody and shit.
Yeah, shit ensues. But yeah, they build an entire Lego model of the town they live in, and that was pretty good. I think my only complaint with the episode is I don't really like the designs of the characters, mainly just because they all have noses, and that puts me off because most Lego minifigures don't have noses.
That's true, yeah.
That's the one thing I feel like it could change. But other than that, if you really like the robot chicken couch gag where like the Simpsons are all toys, then you'll really get a kick out of this episode.
Yeah.
It's one of those late era episodes that everybody really should see, and just especially the ending shot where you have the closing music from Time Bandits. It pans out to show the entire universe as a Lego set.
Yeah, I forgot about the Time Bandits parody. That's funny because I saw that movie just like 2 months ago, so I actually got that reference. Yeah.
I understood that reference.
Nice.
That's a reference.
Cool.
I'm gonna beat that joke to the ground.
Oh, great. So, 20...
We're going till the world stops turning and he beats it into the ground tonight.
Hey, where were you on our last episode where we talked about Nickelback?
I was not invited.
Aw.
No,
Next time. Okay,
we're sorry.
so, so we're on to season 26.
Yep.
Cool. And what say you for season 26, Josh?
Well, I had it between two episodes. I was going to pick one that I had already kind of talked about in a Treehouse of Horror episode, and so I thought I'd have a backup.
Okay.
Oh,
So my backup pick is going to be what I feel is sort of like a modern version of Homer's Barbershop Quartet, Hovercraft.
Oh, that's an excellent episode. I was tempted to pick it, but I lent it to you.
Okay, Homer starts playing bass.
Yes, it's so.
And then I've seen a meme of this where like Homer starts playing bass and he's like learning Meshuggah songs, but like because you hear Meshuggah in the background, I'm just like, if only.
Yeah. No,
But just the little effects when he hits the first string and his like entire body's vibrating. It's like, what the rock?
Wow.
Yeah, as a
Yeah,
bassist,
But essentially, they form a cover band. All the dads form a cover band, cover this sort of Journey-esque band, Sungazer's hit song, and Apu's fronting the band, and they get bigger and bigger until Sungazer themselves ask Apu to take over, and then Homer gets jealous of that. And when they get back together, it's like you feel like that's where I guess he really wanted to be. Apu, instead of singing for this like basically dinosaur band, he's just having fun with a bunch of other dads.
Yeah. Now, as a fellow bassist, I really
Hoping for a
appreciate.
dream, hoping.
Yeah, as a fellow bassist, I really appreciate like the digs at a lot of like the misconceptions about people who pick up the instrument. Like Homer can't even list a single person who plays one. He just lists the bands that have them.
Not even Sting?
You know the great thing about music?
Who was
It's
on the
so
show?
Easy.
It's so easy. Oh, he's hitting one note repeatedly. It's like, wow, you're like one of the greatest bass players already.
Yeah,
That's
it's
hilarious
when you have to work on commission, though.
That's hilarious to me because there was a band a couple of years ago that both Josh and Lyle were in at separate times where... we're not going to...
You're going to open a can of worms here,
Go,
dude.
just tell them, like,
Do you
what...
want to open it now, or do you want to save it for later?
Oh, God. Yes.
How about we just talk about that some other time?
Yeah, something, but...
Basically, I also kind of like how Homer gets progressively better throughout the beginning of the episode, too. He even learns scales and grooves.
You need to start slapping the bass and using bass chords and pedals and effects and everything.
Yeah. Well,
He needed a 5-string bass.
I was just reminded of that band experience because the showrunners of the band, the owners of the band, actually applauded you when they made you play a song where you strummed literally one note the whole time.
Oh, fuck. Anyways,
Moving on.
Before I leave this episode, one of the other cool things about it is that Matthew Sweet actually wrote a song for it, and that's someone I only know because of Guitar Hero 2, because his song Girlfriend was in the game. So, like, I understand that record.
Nice.
All right.
Okay,
Oh,
so
and Sammy Hagar. We forgot about him.
the title.
Yeah, that cameo didn't make sense to me personally.
Okay, so the title of my pick is called Bull E, and it has nothing to do with Wall-E, the movie. It's parodying, but basically the plot is this: a bullying incident between Bart, Jimbo, Dolphin, Kearney goes too far, and Marge decides to actually do something where she takes the case to Springfield City Hall, and recklessly an anti-bullying law is passed, and wouldn't you know it, a bunch of people get arrested unjustly for even, if you are a bully in Springfield, for even the slightest sense of the word, you're getting thrown in the slammer. So there's even an episode where one of the biggest laughs I actually got was when Homer is calling the police saying, the guy at Krusty Burger only filled my soda with mostly ice. He's a bully. And I'm like, oh my God. Because it's a parody of what happens when societies recklessly enact a law and over-police that law to the point where it's unjust. So...
Is it like a jab at cancel culture?
Not even... You could argue that it is.
Okay. I mean, I haven't seen this episode, so I don't know.
Homer Badman is one of the best.
That's a better example.
Well, we're going into like the past, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
we gotta keep moving.
so we gotta keep moving into the future.
Basically, they take it too far.
And the whole again, just like in the next 2 seasons ago with Black Eyed Please, this episode also has an arc where Homer and Flanders go at it again, and this time like Homer comes to realize that he was a huge douche to Ned for all these years, and Homer actually makes a somewhat passable effort to ask for forgiveness, and Flanders doesn't grant him forgiveness like initially. He actually makes him work for it. So,
well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's the plot. The town police is bullying, and ironic hilarity ensues. Yeah. Moving on.
All right, my pick for season 26 is Bart's New Friend. So, much like in the Blunder Years, Homer gets hypnotized at a circus, and he is stuck in the mindset of a 10-year-old version of himself and becomes best friends with Bart Simpson.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm noticing a pattern here. We all like episodes where the Simpsons bond with each other.
Or bond with another character.
Yeah, where they actually spend like some time with another character, and they actually have like moments together. And that's what this episode does pretty well, because like Bart actually likes spending time with Homer. He likes dicking around with him. He uses him to his advantage to get the drop on some bullies. Lisa even kind of enjoys having a younger minded Homer because he's not as like uncouth. And, I don't have a ton to say about this episode, other than the fact that it was actually written by Judd Apatow.
Nice!
He came back.
Wow.
I know, it's a pretty fun episode. It's
He wrote this when he was 22.
Judd Apatow wrote a Simpsons episode when he was 22?
Oh, what?
Well, he wrote, like, his initial treatment of it. So this was literally in 89 or 1990. Like, right as the show started.
What?
So, in other words, this is fan fiction brought to life.
Holy
Jesus.
shit, I did not know that. That actually adds a whole new layer to this.
Yeah.
It took him long enough.
Also, in the whole, like, Homer getting hypnotized thing, this is literally just an extension of the Blunder Years. Although, if he wrote this originally, like, before the Blunder Years, then maybe they ripped him off.
Wow.
Yeah, they are very similar, as I said. Now, before we move on to season 27, I do have to mention one thing, and it's unfortunately about Julie Kavner. After 25 seasons of the show, it becomes very, very clear that Julie Kavner's voice has degraded over the years.
Very sad,
and while her Patty and Selma voice is relatively intact from what Evan told me, her Marge voice is basically, like, gone. She can no longer do it.
It's not that it's gone, it's just unrecognizable. And it gets worse with each passing season.
Sadly, it's very physically evident that it's very painful for her to talk as Marge, and it's very painful to kind of hear her speak for long periods of time. It almost sounds like she needs, like, lemon tea or something each episode, and it gets worse and worse each season, and that's sort of the unfortunate
And then they get the
thing.
bright idea to have musical numbers where she's singing.
Oh,
God, I can't even imagine. But that's kind of the toll that a show that overstays its welcome kind of has. A lot of the actors sort of come out
not to be any more of a downer, but with your pick in particular, there is the end scene of this.
Oh, right.
Where Maggie resembles a Eugene Delacroix painting. They're due to recent tragic events at the time this episode aired.
Yeah. Oh, geez. That's right. So, moving on.
Let's go into season 27.
What's your pick for season 27?
27. I have Gal of Constant Sorrow.
Gal of Constant Sorrow.
This one's actually a lot of fun, just because it does sort of appeal to the NPR listener in me. Well, with all songs featuring host Bob Orland guest starring, Lisa finding that essentially this once former like folk music prodigy, Hetty, who is voiced by Kate McKinnon, but whose singing voice is by the remarkable Natalie Wayne of the Chicks.
Of what? Sorry?
The Chicks.
Oh, the Chicks. Cool. Nice.
Who were once known by a slightly longer name, but due to more recent events, they changed in the last few years. But just like Hetty's character is a little bit of a tragic, darker arc, and so for Lisa to interact with her it's pretty, I guess, sobering for her, but it's got a really nice, warming ending. So I liked it.
I see.
That's nice.
That's nice. Cool. So my pick for season 27 was an episode called Simprovised. Basically, the plot's very simple. Homer gets stage fright, and he cures it by going to improv comedy clubs. And by the end of the episode, he forms a comedy troupe based off from like him, Lenny, Carl, Apu, and I think Principal Skinner. Yeah, not too much to say about this episode. I just thought it was kind of fun to see Homer, dip his feet into the waters of, stand-up comedy. I just picked this because it was kind of a filler. Like, I needed nothing from this season appealed to me, so I just thought, okay, it might be interesting. But I think this is the episode on my list. Yeah, this is the episode on my list where, for reasons, at first the reasons seemed unclear, but they drag out the last 3 minutes of episode with Homer basically making a bid for president of the United States to run for president, and then by the end of this bid, he says, "Yeah, I'm dropping out and endorsing Jeb Bush." Now, at first, I was confused by this joke, but then I was like, "Oh, okay. This is the Simpsons poking fun at Donald Trump's announcement that he was running for president without
forward 4.5 years to that Treehouse of Horror from that season."
Yeah, they were poking fun at Donald Trump's bid for the presidency without mentioning Trump. Actually, no, they mentioned him once, saying Homer's like, "I could beat Trump, Clinton, and Sanders." Lousy Sanders. Poor Bernie. But anyways, so yeah, basically, it has nothing to do with the episode, but the fact that just Homer makes a random bid for president and then drops it by the end, that kind of made the episode for me. But yeah, not too much to say.
All right. I have a lot.
Was this also the episode where, depending on what post you were on, there were actually like different things he said?
Yeah, because they said for the first time in the show's history, we're going to have it took us 26 years, but we're going to actually have Homer read live questions on air. So I guess
and Homer mentions the Toronto Blue Jays. Yay, relevancy!
Oh well, I got stuck with whatever version they put on Disney Plus. So
we've been vindicated. Yay!
Yeah. Okay.
That would have been anyway.
I have a lot to say about my pick, but to be fair, I did mention it in our Treehouse of Horror retrospective. So if you want to visit that, you can hear more about what I have to say. My pick for season 27 is Halloween of Horror. The log line is going to be a little hard to dissect because there's 3 interwoven plots, but basically Lisa gets traumatized after going to a Krusty Land Fright Fest during Halloween, and so she just wants to kind of have a Halloween-free Halloween with Homer, while Marge and Bart go out and try to trick-or-treat and celebrate as much as they can before they run out of time. Meanwhile, Homer and Lisa get accosted by some recently fired Quickie Mart employees that Homer inadvertently got fired because they were trying to smuggle Halloween goods out of the store. So they gotta avoid them at all costs. But anyways, that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is why I love this episode. And my God, for the first time in ages, I can comfortably call this one of my all-time favorite episodes.
Wow.
This is easily my favorite of this era. Everything pays off. It's wonderful throughout. Lisa and Homer have some incredibly good moments together, especially by the end.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of tense at times, too. I worry about them. And it even has a really, really good parody of Time Warp from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes, that's a good one.
NC-17. And, something, it's just like Treehouse of Horror 5, I want to watch this episode every Halloween now. And it's now part of my canon.
Wow.
You know, I'll watch Nightmare on Elm Street, Donnie Darko, Halloween, maybe Frankenstein if I'm in the mood, and then I'll watch Treehouse of Horror 5, and I'll watch this every Halloween. So that's how good it is. I highly endorse it.
Wow.
It keeps that level of tension from when they realize they're inside the house all the way through to the end.
Yeah, no.
Like, there are some segments of actual Treehouse of Horrors that are not as scary and intense as this one.
I know, but it even has an incredibly good character moment for Lisa that really brings the episode home, and I did not expect to feel so many emotions by the end, and that's why it shocked me so much that Simpsons could still be this good this late in the game. It makes me feel, it reminds me of how good the old episodes were.
Yeah. Did they bring back old writers from the show? Or?
No, actually, I think this was a newer writer. She did a few other episodes. I don't recall her name.
Clearly she understood the source material and respected it, so good for her.
No, highly recommend this episode.
Okay, so...
Say no more.
Great. Ended on a beautiful note. Ended nicely.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
we're not done
yet. 3 more seasons.
Woohoo!
For Josh, what say you for season 28?
Well, in the vein of one of my favorite Golden Age episodes, Raging Abe Simpson and his grumbling grandson and the Curse of the Flying Hellfish.
Oh, I love that.
A Grandpa episode, A Father's Watch.
A Father's Watch.
Was it up someone's
Mainly
ass?
the point of it
I knew you were going to make that joke.
What? I missed it.
I said the Father's Watch, was it up his ass until he died of dysentery? And then Christopher Walken had to wear it up his ass for a number of years.
Yeah.
Little man. I won't explain the reference.
Yeah.
But that was a reference.
So the main A-plot is Bart and Grandpa are bonding over the fact that Grandpa got a watch from his father when he was young and he's held on to it. He then gives it to Bart. And while Bart loses it, Homer becomes jealous of that, but then he gets it back. But just like the fact that Bart and Grandpa are, they work really well together.
Oh, that's great.
And then that stupid B-plot happens.
Which one?
The whole thing about, the trophy culture and all that stuff. And, Lisa trying to get people to, stop placing emphasis on winning. And so then Homer basically makes money by selling fake trophies.
But didn't they do an episode where she complains so hard about losing that President Clinton comes to the door and is like, "Now, Lisa, if you complain hard enough, people will listen to you."
Is that not after this point?
No, that's a one from the past. But enough about that. So yeah, no, I saw. I'm noticing some parallels between old Simpsons and new Simpsons, which is kind of cool. But I feel like they're just capitalizing on what was already done before.
No, I mean
there are some decent guest stars in here. I mean, you have Brian Posehn.
Oh, cool.
I don't mind his work. He's pretty fine. Rob Riggle is the guy, the doctor that encourages everybody to not care about trophies. And then you have the commissioner of the NBA in that sort of throwaway end segment, which also, this is the era where there's a commercial break for the third time, and then there's something before the credits, and then there's I think there's a commercial break, another segment, then a fourth break, and then you go into something right before the credits.
Yeah,
the show structure's weird now.
It really ruins the flow of the episodes, I find.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't end when it feels right. It does push beyond, where it should.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But oh well.
My pick for season 28 was actually another sequel to an earlier episode from season 4, Camp Krusty. The plot of this episode is, turns out that shit that the kids went through at Camp Krusty really fucked them up. So, in a really
as a premise, that could be really interesting if they wanted to delve into it.
They didn't delve into it. The episode was unfocused. It barely focuses on Camp Krusty. It focuses more on the fact that Homer and Marge have a libido issue again.
Again?
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, in the teen seasons, they overdid the plot thread where Homer and Marge have they keep fighting and they keep breaking up and getting back together. Now it's libido problems in the 20s.
Well, that's what happens when you get older, I guess.
Very good point.
The show ages with the characters.
What's it gonna be in the 30s and beyond? Is menopause finally gonna hit?
Yeah. Now there's this big mystery about someone that may or may not have died at the camp, and unfortunately, it's resolved way too fast. It's a mystery for about less than 2 minutes, and then it's resolved. Yeah. So yeah, no, unfocused. This episode kind of fascinated me because I'm like, ooh, a sequel to Camp Krusty, like 20-something years later. So what do they do with it? An unfocused storyline. But you see what became of the land that Camp Krusty was built on. Krusty actually built it into the most crusty thing he would do. He makes it into an adult retreat center with, spas and all that fun stuff.
So by the sounds of it, this episode just sounds like one of those episodes that stands on the shoulders of better episodes.
Yes, it does stand on the shoulders of Camp Krusty.
It's kind of like my next pick, if I may segue.
Yeah, let's do that now.
Alright, so speaking of things that are basically, hey, remember this? My pick for season 28 is Pork and Burns. Do you remember Spider Pig? Oh god, my ears. We're gonna blow out the headphones. Anyways, so Homer reunites with Spider Pig and uses him to help cure his anxiety. And Marge decides to get rid of all material possessions and forces the family to dump most of their shit. And Lisa dumps virtually everything, including her saxophone, and then realizes, and then loses her love of jazz in the process.
Oh shit.
The only thing I like is just to see Spider Pig again, because he pops up kind of a few times after the movie, but nothing significant. This is like the first time we've seen him like return to a full episode. And again, he was one of the funnier aspects of the Simpsons movie. I remember like when I was in high school, or like not even high school, like middle school, everyone was quoting Spider Pig, Spider Pig, and then everyone was like, that was like kind of like the talk of the town at that time.
They were capitalizing on the other biggest blockbuster of the summer that year, but yeah, it was cool. It was fun.
There's one animation glitch that's kind of weird in this episode where like Bart is trying to comfort Lisa when she's like kind of losing her purpose. And it's like, let's just put our heads together and see what happens. And their heads click together, kind of like a puzzle. And it's like, wow, we fit perfectly. And I swear to hand to God, Bart's nose disappears.
Yeah. And
it's like, well, I wish all your noses disappeared in the Lego episode, but I guess I asked too late. But hey, better late than never, I guess.
Wow.
There's not much to say about this episode. I like to see Harry Plopper again. That's all you need. It's another episode that stands on the shoulders of other things previously established, but what can I say? I like my nostalgia.
Okay. So 2 more seasons. Wow, we blew through this fast.
You say that every time.
Yeah. So, Josh, for season 29, what say you?
We're almost done.
Flanders' Ladder.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Essentially, Bart, after falling off the ladder, is able to see how people will die.
I could have sworn
or
there was
he has to help ghosts that are, like, trying to, I guess, move on to the afterlife or something, stuck in purgatory.
Oh, so it's like the Sixth Sense, basically.
Wow.
Kind of. I kind of remember vague things about this episode. The thing I remember is, like, how they parody the end of 6 Feet Under, where it shows how various characters die.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Of course, Maggie being the galaxy who will never die. Because you can't say she dies if she was never really born.
Yeah.
What?
I never watched 6 Feet Under.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
that sounds like a fun
Maud's
episode.
Ghost comes back, too.
Oh, cool.
Oh, who?
Maud Flanders.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So my pick is Forgive and Regret. Unless I missed something, I think this is the 4th episode in which Homer's mother plays a part in the story.
There's another episode called How I Wet Your Mother that has her back.
Oh, so like, okay.
So what do we have, 5 total?
Yeah, no, this
Who's
is
to say? We haven't seen every single episode.
This episode appealed to me because the log line had me watch it was, Grandpa is on his deathbed and he has to share a terrible secret with Homer. I'm like, I'm curious. The plot where Grandpa is going to die only lasts about 30 seconds, literally. Like,
wait, he doesn't die?
No, it looks like he's going to die in the first 5 minutes of the episode, but then a minute later it's resolved. And so on what he thinks is his deathbed, he thinks that he's going to die, so he tells Homer something horrible. It turns out that Homer's mother possessed these really valuable recipes that made Homer this wonderful, happy child. But then once his mother like ran off, those recipes got lost, and the reason they got lost is because Grandpa threw them away. So to make it up to
got lost and this intentionally threw them off a cliff to forget about her.
Yeah, so he intentionally threw them off a cliff. So the plot of the episode is Grandpa makes it up to Homer and actually tries to earn his forgiveness by helping him find the recipes, and it's kind of touching somewhat. It's not a very funny episode. I just picked it because the premise sounded interesting when I was scrolling through Disney Plus. But that's really all I have to say. I mean, Grandpa was a total cock for the first half of the episode, but he actually makes an effort to be the bigger person in the end. So
the one historical point I'll give this episode is when the show finally surpassed Gunsmoke to be the longest-running scripted American primetime TV show by number of episodes.
Oh, that's true.
And they marked that by having Maggie fight the main character from Gunsmoke in the opening sequence.
Oh, right, yeah. I skipped the opening sequence because at this point I was like, yeah.
You just want to get it over with.
Yeah.
My next episode
yeah.
is another. I don't have much to say about this one either. Season 29 is kind of a dud. But this episode is called Frank Gets Testy. There's either this one or Singing in the Lanes, which is another episode that just stands on the episode where like all the guys get together and do bowling. But that one wasn't as good. So I did Frank Gets Testy. So Mr. Burns hears a message on TV that says the world could end. And he overreacts and decides to build an ark. And he wants the entirety of Springfield, with the help of Professor Frink, to do a standardized test that determines who is worthy to be on that ark.
This sounds like the plot of the movie 2012, directed by Roland Emmerich.
Yeah, kind of. So
it was Evan Almighty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically,
Monty Almighty. Yay!
Yeah.
So it's a fun episode, and it's kind of nice to see Professor Frink again. He doesn't get too many episodes where he's kind of a pivotal part of the show.
Yeah.
And there's a nice musical number. And Lisa gets all upset because she got a slightly lower test score than Ralph Wiggum.
Oh no, her fragile little ego.
Oh my god, you want to talk about fragile ego? Lisa has gotten so much worse as the show gets on. She has panic attacks out of nowhere. She harms herself if things don't go her way.
That doesn't like when someone knows more than her.
And she gets her ego gets so fucking hurt anytime anyone is slightly better than her.
Wow.
It's annoying.
It reminds me of that episode when they dedicate a whole episode earlier in the show to when Maggie has a higher IQ than her, allegedly. So.
Oh yeah, Simple Simpson.
No, Simple Simpson was the Pie Man episode.
Yeah.
Smart and Smarter.
Oh,
Smart and Smarter.
It had S's in it.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, there were S's and other letters in the word.
Yeah.
Nice one. Yeah, but anyways, I don't have much to say of this episode. There is a funny bit where Ralph just wantonly walks through a construction site without a care in the world, and Lisa follows him, trying to understand how he's so intelligent when he does dumb shit like this. And then Chief Wiggum, who I think is like the MVP now, because he's in all my favorite episodes of this era, where it's like, oh, don't worry, everybody, Ralph's fine, just like all cartoon characters in these situations. Sweet Pea, Mr. Magoo, and Lou's like, well, what about Sylvester? Never be a cat in a cartoon, Lou. That's the end of the word. That's all you gotta know. Don't be a cartoon cat, Lou. I don't know. Not much to say. It's fine.
Can I throw in one more point about Lisa before we head to the last season?
Yeah. Go ahead.
It became more and more apparent that Lisa is now the Brian Griffin of the show.
Oh my god.
Where like she's the voice of reason, but she's not very likable.
She has to be the voice of reason, even when it's very clear she's not, and then they shoehorn her trying to point out somebody's flaws in solely because the plot says so.
I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Lisa fan, but that's not to say I absolutely hate her. I do think there are episodes where I actually really do feel for Lisa, but then as of lately, like halfway through the show, she gets so like, she feels so self-righteous in every moment of the show, and it's getting so grating to the point.
I'd go with.
Pretentious, yeah, like she always feels like she's the moral center. She always has a high ground despite doing stupid things herself. And like, Yeah, she's just annoying now. And she didn't always used to be that way. I used to actually kind of like Lisa, but sometimes I just can't stand her, and I usually skip some episodes where she's the central point.
Yeah. Holy fuck, The Simpsons and we have made it to 30 seasons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go.
Last picks of the night. What did you pick, Josh?
Well, I don't really care about dying on this hill because I'm not going to make it up the hill, but I went with Mad About the Toy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Basically, apparently Grandpa was an action figure in World War II era America, and then it becomes a viral news story or something, and everyone lives happily ever after. I don't know. They make money regardless.
Oh, okay.
Disney doesn't care about what I think about this episode anyway.
I did kind of look into this episode. They said it in this area in Texas, and I looked into it. There's some interesting things about this town. I think it's called Malfa, Texas.
Marfa, Texas.
Marfa, not Malfa. Sorry. And there's a lot of stuff there. It has nice architecture. It's the place where they shot No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood. There's this kind of environmental phenomenon that happens there. They're called the Marfa Lights, where it's like just these orbs of light that come out in the sky and like shine around the environment. It's kind of nice. Like there's some cool bits. There's even like this fake.
Yeah, it was
shot.
kind of being an ass because part of the plot is that when Grandpa was like doing the photography for these toys, the photographer was gay. And so, because the photographer kissed him, Grandpa ran out being all embarrassed. But then the photographer got fired, and he was basically Grandpa was trying to find the photographer to apologize. And then they make up, and that's kind of a nice reconciliation. And especially being this is almost the 2020s at this point, having some sort of LGBTQ2S plus representation, or at least like a plot that involves it, was going to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not the first time, but at least it's done nice. It's done.
It's a recent example of it for sure.
Okay. Yeah. That's good enough.
My pick was an episode that made headlines here in our country. Doe Canada. The plot.
I hate those headlines.
Evan, you have a cameo in this episode.
Yeah, I do have I apparently do have a cameo for some reason. So, case in point. The Simpsons go on a vacation to Buffalo, but they wind up across the Canadian side of Niagara Falls, and then I guess the Simpsons was trying to capitalize on the anti-Trump jokes or anti-America jokes because Lisa is in a position where she unintentionally declares political asylum in Canada because America is apparently so bad, and so she spends like time in Canada. Marge is fully against this. Like
she
the whole
sneaks into the country.
Yeah, no, Marge literally like sneaks into Canada to try and like set her free and tries to like end the asylum. And while Lisa's in Canada, she goes to a school that looks like the school you went to out in your small town.
Oh yeah, I guess.
And also, she has a Skype call with me, aka Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. But unlike the Regina monologues from season 15, they didn't get our Prime Minister to guest star.
Oh no.
They didn't get the real Justin Trudeau.
Oh, I couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't tell the difference. They didn't do that much. They did justice to one part of Trudeau's personality, where the whole yoga joke, and but they missed his ums and uhs like in his speech.
I'm an ignorant swine. I don't know what he sounds like.
Listen to Justin Trudeau give a speech at any point within the last year or so. He's like Jeff Goldblum with his uhs and ums.
Okay.
So basically, we get it. Trump sucks. They kind of beat that over the head.
They really do.
In that whole episode, like we get it. Well,
they did bring Judy Blume in for this episode.
They did bring Judy Blume in for this episode.
Yeah,
right?
Didn't you brought her in for one of the ones where there's like the book job or anything else involving reading or education or smart things?
Yeah.
Lisa does a reenactment of The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah. So.
Oh, that's for a future Treehouse of Horror, isn't it?
Maybe.
Most likely.
But anyways.
So, what did you think of that parody of that Frank Sinatra song that Homer did, Evan?
The what song?
The one where Homer's singing like a Frank Sinatra style song, and he uses a
Oh yeah, Upstate
residents.
New York.
Oh, I like that bit.
I love that because a lot of I've driven through upstate New York with my family so many times, and everything he says in that song is very accurate about upstate New York. It is a very ramshackled, rundown part of the state.
Speaking of which, did you hear how did you feel about the controversy where the Wiggum-ish
Yeah, no,
clubs stuffed seal?
that was really offensive to the Newfies in this country.
Making fun of Newfoundlanders.
Because like they equate Newfies to be as intelligent and as decorum based as Ralph Wiggum, and they have them like just mindlessly clubbing a plushie of a baby seal.
Remember when they had an episode where Ralph Wiggum was actually almost about to be president?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like to tell every time someone says, "Oh, Barts New Friend is the episode that predicted Trump." No. E pluribus Wiggum. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that
E pluribus.
E pluribus Wiggum is the episode that predicted Trump.
Yeah.
So, anyways, the Simpsons go to Canada and hijinks ensue for most of the episode.
And then they never go there again.
At least until they, well, I get it. The Simpsons makes fun of both Canada, the United States, and it makes fun of all the Americans that said, "I'm moving to Canada."
But at this point in time, the Simpsons writers thinking they're making fun of stuff, they're already behind the curve, and there are other shows that have been doing it a lot smarter and not punishing the audience in some ways for still being around.
The problem with The Simpsons is that they're going to be at least a year behind all the jokes because it takes a long ass time to.
Really, I thought it only takes them like a few months to write an episode or do an episode in COVID. What, like 4 to 6 months?
No, it can to make a full episode. It takes them like a few weeks to write it, but then it takes another 8 months to produce it to the point where it's fully like ready for release.
They're not like
kind of a nod to like
they don't
32 because they're like some of the earlier episodes where they were only referencing things that had just happened earlier that year. And the series only started, like the season started in September, and they're referencing things that happened from like March or April. So clearly it doesn't take 8 months to animate.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. But the point is, it takes months to produce, and it's not like Saturday Night Live or South Park where they have the luxury of making jokes in real time. Because South Park's production.
I mean, if it was, then we would have had an hour-long pandemic special for this show too.
Yeah. Well, no, South Park has the benefit of having such a rushed production schedule.
I wouldn't call that a benefit. I saw a documentary about how they make episodes. The crunch time is insane, and they don't take very good care of themselves during the time they spend.
It's not just in video games.
It's not just in KFC.
Well, completely off topic, but I heard that apparently Trey Parker and Matt Stone almost killed themselves from lack of sleep to make the movie Basketball because they were greenlit that movie. They took on that project thinking South Park would be canceled. It wasn't canceled, so they had to shoot Basketball by day and make South Park by night.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
All right. Is that all?
That's all I have to say about Do Canada.
Do Canada.
It capitalized on Canadian humor, Americans who don't like America, and it also capitalized on the whole, Americans who said, "I'm moving to Canada if Trump is elected." So they capitalized on all of that. Good for them.
Yeah, I just remember another episode set in Canada. Remember when they become drug runners?
Midnight RX.
Midnight RX.
That's another good Canadian
episode.
episode.
I love that episode.
Yeah.
I think I talked about it in our last one.
Yeah, you did.
Cool.
All right, so we gotta wrap this up. So my last pick for this show, which I've been binging for over a year now, is none other than Atticus Finch. After reading To Kill a Mockingbird, Lisa grows fonder of Homer after she begins to identify him as Atticus Finch, the main character from the book. Well, not really the main character, but the main patriarchal force of the book. I'm actually a pretty big fan of To Kill a Mockingbird. It's up there with like Catcher in the Rye and other classics such as that. I mean, Clockwork Orange and stuff. It's one of my favorite classic novels. And I was pretty happy with most of the homages they paid with the source material. They even show, this is kind of cheating, but they kind of show actual clips from the movie. I wasn't crazy about that, but I guess, why animate when you can just like show real footage? It's very weird how Lisa actually thinks Homer is anything like Atticus. There's just one moment where he's very indignant and he stands up to Lisa and is like, I will not have my daughter wear these skimpy bathrobes to her swimming pool party or whatever. And so she starts like identifying him. If anything, I think Homer is more like Stanley Kowalski from The Streetcar Named Desire. And they touched upon that like 20 years ago. So.
In A Streetcar Named Marge.
Yeah, in A Streetcar Named Marge. So yeah, I don't really see what Homer has anything to do with Atticus Finch, but they do a few references. Homer actually does a few things that Atticus did in the novel, like calming down.
We get a Llewellyn Sinclair sighting.
Yeah, and Bart kind of grows apart. Oh, there's two really funny bits in this episode, and I'll bring them up. The first one is Homer's like he's like bragging about the time he outsmarted a vending machine. He like made it so that he got 2 candies instead of 1. He's like, haha, take that technology, and then the fucking vending machine lands on him. And I was waiting for my bus in the subway, and I started laughing for a full-on minute. And I can't remember the last time I laughed that hard at anything. So like that was actually pretty great. And another thing is J.K. Simmons is in this episode
again.
He shows up quite a few times in the show, but this one's pretty good because he plays a school counselor, like a psychologist.
Oh.
And because he's so overworked, the joke with him is you have 40 seconds to talk about your problem and 45 seconds for him to wrap up the problem. And J.K. Simmons is impeccably good at speaking fast.
He really is.
He's and that's his greatest skill in this episode. Like like Lisa has a problem, Bart has a problem, Marge has a problem with both Bart and Lisa, and like J.K. Simmons has to basically like say in like 10 or 15 seconds how to fix the problem. He's like, all right, you're out. And then Sherry and Terry show up at one point. He's like, all right, twin counsel, you both get 40 seconds. Yeah, no, it's not a perfect episode, but at this stage of the game, I'll take anything.
And
so let's...
The Simpsons...
We did it.
We plowed through, like...
We survived.
We did.
Mm-hmm.
So, what can we say about the declining quality of this show?
I mean, it speaks for itself. We spent, like, only, like, less than an hour and a half talking about this era of The Simpsons.
Compared to, like, 8+ hours...
Yeah, of the other stuff. We had very little to say about each episode.
So you could spend a workday listening to us yammer about this show.
Yeah,
but you
basically.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
Don't you have better things to do with your life?
Like,
don't talk to our audience like that.
The golden and silver ages to now, like some of the plot lines from the last few seasons are stuff about weed dispensaries, cryptocurrency, the entire opening of Treehouse of Horror 31,
Facebook.
Yeah.
A surprise return of Artie Ziff for no other reason other than, hey, nostalgia.
There's a lot of nostalgia baiting in this era of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
A lot of anthology episodes in season 32 thus far.
Oh, yeah?
Cool.
I haven't seen 31 or 32 yet, so...
Are they even on Disney Plus?
Not yet, no.
No, they're not.
No, not yet. I thought 31 would have been in October, but I guess not.
Wow.
The show is obviously past its prime. I wasn't even really prepared for this episode. Like, by the time I got to season 25, I only had like a week until we were going to record. I mean, yeah, because I did what Evan did. I just looked through descriptions of episodes. I'm like, okay, well maybe this will be a good one. Maybe this one will be fine. It was a challenge trying to find episodes that were worth talking about. Because a lot of it's kind of like in one ear, out the other. There'll be long stretches of super bland episodes, and
and not only that,
it was very hard.
Even when I do laugh at a joke, it's not very memorable. Like, I forget about it like a day later.
I think this is the time where The Simpsons stopped being water cooler television. This is when Family Guy was like kind of overtaking its popularity. It's when like a lot of my friends just stopped talking about Simpsons. It's when I actually just stopped watching the show. Like as soon as I finished the Simpsons movie, I thought, that's it. It's done. But it kept going.
Yeah. And it won't stop. It can't stop. It won't stop.
I have
Cause you can't, you won't, and you don't stop. Cause you can't, you won't, and you don't stop.
Matt Groening, can you stop the show now?
They'll never stop the Simpsons.
I was
they
waiting
seriously
for you.
meant that. They will never stop.
I was waiting for you to sing that song, Josh. Now, here's a question. What do you think would be what do you think is the most appropriate way for The Simpsons to end?
Make a second Simpsons movie and don't make anything after that. come up with a story so fresh, so impactful that
it ends up just rebooting the series all over again.
Yeah.
So
No rebooting.
You just want the writers to put in one final effort in a movie. I mean, they should. I would like another Simpsons movie.
I actually came up with an idea for a sequel to the Simpsons movie, but have it be Homer runs for president and therefore learns all about them.
Oh, don't be political. That's boring.
Okay, fair enough.
That's Man of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
That's Ted 2.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean Ted 2?
Oh, I know, they got political. It's like, oh, I have rights as a citizen even though I'm a teddy bear, and it was not funny at all.
Oh, god damn it.
Anyways,
if Teddy Ruxpin could be a citizen of whatever country he was in, surely so can Ted.
Yeah.
Here we go, talking about Seth MacFarlane.
There's a rabbit hole.
My
ideal ending would be you pan out from like this guy above the house at the end of a normal episode, and then all of a sudden it goes live action, and then there's like a young Matt Groening like, what the hell was that? That seems like a great idea. He can speak for all these characters, and that's basically how he comes up with the idea for the actual show.
Yeah, while he's in an elevator about to pitch his idea to Fox. Yeah.
Yeah, I call that pulling a new heart.
That's like almost like Saint Elsewhere or something, like just a total cop-out ending.
I feel like an ending like that is the fate the show deserves.
I think you're right. I mean, they've gone on long enough. I always feel like...
prove me wrong, Disney. Prove me wrong.
Yeah, but we're just speculating. But yeah, no, I say make a second Simpsons movie and end it after that.
If they make a second Simpsons movie, you know what I want? Near the climax of the movie, every single character is split up, and they all like race to the house. They race to the house just like they do in the opening credits, but the stakes are turned up to 1,000,000 degrees.
Oh,
and then like Springfield's going to hell. Everyone's chasing them. I don't know what the context is, but they all race to the house in their individual ways. They all try to get to the couch as fast as humanly possible. It'd be like the ultimate couch gag.
Called the Amazing Race.
That's not bad.
I mean, they might as well.
Yo, Matt Groening, if you're listening to this, give Lyle screen credit. Give us screen credit for coming up with that idea. Well, it's at a point now where people can write fan fiction for this show, and fan fiction can actually be produced on this show.
Well, also, the writers are getting a little younger and a little younger every 5 or 6 years. So eventually there'll be a point where us late 20, early 30-somethings will be the ones writing it.
I thought you were gonna say, Josh, that eventually babies are gonna start writing it.
No, high school.
No, we're getting to the point where the Gen Z crowd is gonna be interpreting the show in its own way. I mean, frankly, I'm surprised The Simpsons doesn't have an official TikTok account.
Well, my theory is, are they going to have to replace voice actors soon? Because
they already did a TikTok parody.
Oh yeah,
no. The hip new social media,
the app
that's sweeping.
TikTok.
I know. I was
TikTok,
just playing.
the app. Yeah, but what happens if one of these voice actors like tragically passes away? They're losing. They lost Tress McNally. They lost
Tress McNally.
They lost Marcia Wallace.
They almost lost Harry Shearer for a time. He quit the show.
He quit, but then he came back.
That wasn't deceased thing.
Yeah, I know, but he did want to leave, but then he just kind of had to come back, I guess.
So
just when he wants to get out, they pull him back in.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like, they typically don't recast. Well,
how can you? I mean,
they typically don't unless, they want to fit in with all the other progressives.
Yeah, like the Apu scandal, that was pretty rough.
Yeah.
They retired a character.
They didn't retire Apu. They said, despite what you've heard, we're not retired. One screenwriter on the show. Yeah, no. One screenwriter said, we're not retiring Apu, but we're not retiring Apu, despite what you've heard.
I think they also recast Carl, too. Now he is voiced by an actual...
Well, the thing is, I will agree with the recasting of the black characters and other characters of other ethnicities to be voiced by proper people. I alluded to it, how Pico got a new voice from someone who is Japanese American, and Carl was recast. Dr. Hibbert was recently recast by a longtime bit voice actor Kevin Michael Richardson.
Yeah,
Kevin Michael Richardson. He's great.
He pops up in almost every single episode now.
He's been doing smaller roles in The Simpsons for years, like smaller characters. So like it makes sense to do it there, but like with Apu, was like they kind of took it far in the same way they took the reaction to Stark Raving Dad a little too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got boycotted.
Oh god.
Kind of like what happened on Clone High, almost like
Oh,
with the
wow.
Gandhi character.
Which off topic, but that's getting a reboot.
Yeah,
I heard about that.
I can't wait.
Yeah. I need to check out Clone High.
Yeah, I got
Anyways,
it.
so how fitting. The Simpsons speculation gets us talking about other shows. Well, anyways, we gotta let Josh Weinberg go here, and we thank you for joining us. This was fun.
Fun.
What the hell are we gonna do for our 40th episode?
Well, hey, Futurama's on Disney Plus now.
Or it seems today that all you see is violence in movies and sex on TV.
Well, I mean, XL is also a size, and when it comes to media and things about sizes, super size me.
You want our 40th episode to be about documentaries? Or
What?
Well, XL, food, football.
we already did an episode on pizza, so maybe we could do like, the great fast food episode or some shit.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
let's save this planning meeting for later.
Yeah,
let's
not
let you
reveal our
go.
cards.
And have a good night. We will see you soon. Peace.
Good night.
Thank you. And remember, don't trust anyone over 30.
Yeah.
everyone.